The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in every state. You can also get $20 for free. You sign up with the promo code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently Thursday night, February 5th, around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rose Scott Reichel, going solo for this pod. Was supposed to be with Terrell. I don't know where he is, so either way, we couldn't wait forever. Decided to get the show going. So if he joins in the middle, we'll see. But either way, I don't know what happened to him. But anyway, point is we're here to break down the games for Friday. I believe there are 6 games on the card, so it should be fun. I'll get into those in a second. Before we get into the actual games, though, brief recap of the lock and dog picks that I had for the last episode. Overall, ended up splitting. I did lose the lock. Pretty embarrassing. I ended up switching my lock to the Pistons wire to wire, and they lost outright, so not very good there. On the bright side, I had the Hornets money line, and that got there as they were able to beat Houston pretty handily as they coasted to a nice, easy win. Charlotte, really good. Good for them as they ended up winning by 10. Kobe White didn't even play, and they were able to get the job done. Besides that, though, a couple of trades today. I would say it's really tough to evaluate the actual trade deadline because there were a couple of big trades that already happened before trade deadline day. But the actual trade deadline day was not very good. So either way, it was a little bit anticlimactic as Giannis ended up staying put. Even John Morant stayed put. Kawhi is still on the Clippers. A couple of people who were rumored to go elsewhere are still on their current team. But either way, there was one relatively big trade that happened on Thursday as Zubac got traded to the Pacers for Benedict Mathurin, for Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, and 1 second-round pick. And I believe the first-round pick is one of them's for this year. It's Indiana's pick. It's 1 to 4 protected, and I believe 10 onward protected. So if the pick lands between 5 and 9, the Clippers get the pick, which is a pretty weird collection of protections. But either way, the point is the Clippers, after trading Harden, decided, you know what, screw it. Let's also trade Zubac and rebuild. Then again, Kawhi is still here for some reason, so I don't really know what happened there. But for the trade in itself, I think the Clippers got back a decent return. Mathurin, we know, is an entertaining scorer. He's been injured recently, but we know that he's definitely a guy that can get you some buckets. I think his best role would probably be a 6th man on a contending team, so I think that he will be an interesting fit with the Clippers. Isaiah Jackson, good energy, big. Foul trouble a decent amount, but the point is he can give you some good minutes off the bench. You're looking at the 2 firsts, which is definitely nice to get when you're trying to rebuild and the Thunder own half your picks. And on top of that, they also got a second-round pick. So Indiana, interesting move for them because we know Indiana this season stinks. So they basically traded to, I guess the tank this year if you end up sitting Zubac for a couple of months, but the argument is when Halliburton's healthy next year, you actually have you have a real center instead of trying to piece together, no offense to Jay Huff and Isaiah Jackson, but you actually have a fringe all-star caliber center who you can pair with Halliburton, which can do some serious pick and roll damage like we saw with Harden and Zubac for the last couple of years. So I understand the move for both teams, actually. It's kind of one of those moves where I think both teams kind of get the same grade. I like the return for the Clippers. 2 first-round picks in Mathurin. I know Jackson is also included, but to be honest, he's the, I'd say, least important element of the actual trade. But the Clippers got back some pieces. I respect it. I understand the vision, but I do think that having to at least acknowledge the team wasn't going anywhere and being willing to trade away some key pieces was necessary for the Clippers. I understand the move, and I don't mind the return. As for Indiana, I get it. I think that if you have a chance to get a solid center to pair with your elite point guard moving forward, you can. We know this was kind of a gap year for Indiana, who made the finals last year. Halliburton gets hurt, and you kind of know at that point this season's a lost cause. They decided after they lost Miles Turner, you know what? Let's just get another quality center. And I think Zubac, of course, is better than Turner. Then again, the question mark's going to be with regard to the spacing, because we know Turner in the past was a really, really willing three-point shooter. Zubac is not that, so it will be a little bit of a difference in terms of fit compared to the previous centers on this team. But I like Zubac as a player, very solid rebounder, solid overall center, and when you pair him with an elite point guard, he can definitely walk into an I don't know if 20-10 is realistic, but I'd say an 18-12 is probably realistic with Halliburton. So I like the move for both teams. I think it was a pretty fair trade, personally. Besides that, nothing else really worth talking about. There were a couple of other, once again, smaller moves that ended up happening, but I don't really care. The Warriors got Porzingis. I really don't care about that move at all. Cam Thomas was cut by the Nets. He wasn't even traded, which was shocking to most people because they didn't realize Cam Thomas had a no-trade clause the entire time. Pretty interesting how Cam Thomas has been rumored for months to be traded, and nobody acknowledged that he had a no-trade clause, which I thought was pretty funny, but that is why the Nets didn't trade him. It's because they couldn't, because he had a no-trade clause. Besides that, I want to point out one other thing. Giannis, I said before, is staying put. He's staying in Milwaukee, and then he made a couple of posts about loyalty and some other stuff, and honestly, it kind of bothered me. I'll just be very brief about this. Giannis ended up making a statement that he never asked for a trade and that he's happy and committed to the Milwaukee Bucks. So this just bothered me, not because Giannis is still on Milwaukee, just the pure gaslighting that people are falling for with regard to Giannis, I think is just sad. Giannis has been quietly passive-aggressive demanding a trade for months, and now he's just denying it completely because he didn't get what he wanted. So over the last couple of weeks, Giannis ended up leaving the Bucks bench prematurely in the middle of games multiple times. He ended up throwing his teammates under the bus for being selfish and for having their own agendas. And on top, he noticed an injury, and that all happened. And now Giannis does not get traded, and he's putting out Wolf of Wall Street videos, and he's claiming that he's always been committed to Milwaukee. No, you haven't. Like, I understand that you want to spin it so it makes you look better, but at the end of the day, you were wanting to get traded for months. You didn't get what you wanted, and now you're trying to spin it so you don't seem like you're a villain who wanted out. For the record, because your team stinks, and if you want to be loyal to a franchise that's not going to go anywhere for the rest of your prime, have fun. For the record, I still think he gets traded during the offseason. But this idea that you can demand a trade indirectly and do a bunch of really awful teammate things over the last couple of weeks, and as soon as you don't get your wish, you can just spin it and just pretend that you've always been loyal to the person. It's absolutely nuts. Giannis, you wanted to get traded, you failed at getting traded, and now you're stuck in Milwaukee. For the record, you might not play, because Milwaukee might be tanking. Who knows what they're going to do, because that team's horrible. So, yeah, I feel like that was the more annoying thing that happened to me. It was Giannis kind of just going back to the loyalty angle when he's done everything to passive-aggressively demand a trade without officially stating, get me out of Milwaukee. So I thought that was a bunch of nonsense, but that was basically it. Once again, not the greatest trade deadline. There were a bunch of teams that made moves. There were a couple of teams that didn't. Houston not making a move is hilarious to me. Just complete stupidity. Boston buried them in Houston yesterday because they have no point guard. And they said, you know what? We're not going to trade for a point guard. And then what do you know? Houston lost again to Charlotte at home today. So, yeah, Houston not actually committing to winning a championship despite acquiring Kevin Durant. So Houston fell asleep at the wheel. They get an F on the trade deadline. Besides that, there was another team that didn't make a move, and I'm trying to remember who it was. But I'm drawing a blank on who it was. Miami. Miami didn't do anything. Pat Riley, arguably most overrated GM in the entire league. I keep hearing stories every year about how Miami is linked to a star player and how every player wants to play in Miami because of the actual lifestyle there and because of the weather. Great. When was the last time Miami got a superstar? Jimmy Butler? Is it the Jimmy Butler trade? Was that the last time you actually got a star player that you didn't draft? Yeah. Pat Riley doing nothing again at the deadline. So a couple of teams sat around that definitely needed to make a move, and they just didn't do anything. So Houston and Miami. Miami's a bit different, I guess, because they're more of like a fringe play-in team. Then again, you're also right now in first place in your division. And you kept Hero, you kept Bam, you kept all of your roster, even though you're basically a 500 team. So, yeah, Pat Riley and the Heat, F. I didn't do anything. I see Logan mentioning the Spurs. I'm fine with that, actually. The Spurs did not do anything, but I'm okay with that because they have a young core and they want to see what they have. So I didn't mind the Spurs doing nothing because you want to evaluate Fox and Castle and Harper off the bench. And, of course, Wemby's going to be in the franchise for an eternity. But I understood why the Spurs did not do anything compared to the Heat and compared to the Rockets. Two teams that I thought that needed to make a move. San Antonio sitting around was fine with me because they're just testing out the youth movement, seeing how everyone fits. So I didn't mind what the Spurs did. They didn't do anything. But the Heat and the Rockets doing nothing was embarrassing. And they are definitely the biggest losers of the entire trade deadline. Anyways, going to wrap it up for the recap of trade deadline day. Before we get into any of the actual games for Friday, a reminder that if you want picks for the Super Bowl, check out the Sports Game Podcast with Sean and Kramer, giving out 60 bets for Super Bowl 60. Moving on to the actual, once again, card here for Friday. First game we're going to talk about, matchup between, coincidentally, the Heat and the Celtics. Now, Celtics are laying 7.5, and the over-under in this game is set at around 229.5. So Miami did nothing during the actual trade deadline. So far this season, they're 0-2 against Boston. They played one game in Boston. Boston won by 13. Played in Miami about 3 weeks ago, and Boston did win that one by 5. Now, we're looking at Miami, who so far this season has been okay. I mean, they're 27-25. They've had some injuries recently, so we'll see if for example, Norman Powell is supposed to play in this game. So Powell is back in the lineup, so maybe Miami can actually hang with this Boston team. Boston, we know, just got Vucevic. He should be playing in this game, but they made a couple of moves, got rid of Simons. They tried to get under the luxury tax, and they did because they ended up trading away Xavier Tillman and Boucher at the 11th hour to actually get under the salary cap. So good for them. But either way, point is this matchup should be interesting. Boston's clearly better. Then again, Miami, of course, is in the classic underdog role where they're bad as favorites, but you know what? As a dog, they tend to hang in there. And I think I'm going to agree with that. I think Miami can actually keep this game close. You're looking at Boston this season. They've been good at home. They're 16-8 at home. But Boston recently, they have been winning some games, but I do think that Miami is, at least historically speaking, a team that can give Boston problems, especially in Boston. I think Boston's going to win. I don't mind Boston 1-10. They were great against Houston in the last game, beat Dallas by 10. They were up by a ton the entire game, kind of no-showed the fourth quarter, beat Milwaukee handily, beat Sacramento. So not exactly the best schedule involved. Yes, I know Houston is a good team. I think they're heavily overrated, but still a nice win last time out. I'll go Miami, plus the points here. I prefer the over as my favorite play. Each of the first two meetings ended up landing in the 230s. First game landed 245, actually. So I do think this total's too low. I think this game should be a pretty high-scoring one. We know Miami defensively can no-show an entire game, and offensively, with the pace they play, can have some very big outbursts. I'll go over as my favorite thought for this game. Moving on to its probably game of the night, you have the Knicks taking on the Pistons. Pistons no-showed the game against Washington today. In hindsight, clear look ahead. My bad for that one. I should have probably looked into that a bit more. But either way, the Pistons lost outright as 14-point favorites. For the Knicks, they didn't play. Had a crazy overtime win against Denver, and then they ended up having the day off today. For this one, though, Knicks are currently laying 1.5, actually. There has been a favorite switch in this game, so let me just quickly change the banner. But the Knicks are currently favored by 1.5 on the road, and the over-under is at 224.5. Now, Cade was questionable for the game against Washington. He played, and he had 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, so I guess he's fine. Will he play the back-to-back? We don't know. So that's kind of the question mark here. Knicks, though, have been rolling after being a bit of in a bit of free fall and a bit of panic mode. They had the players-only meeting, even though Josh Hart denies it. And now the Knicks have won 8 in a row. So the Knicks have started to play better. Josh Hart, though, is a game-time decision, and Anunoby is a game-time decision, and Cat is a game-time decision. So we'll see what happens. Knicks did trade for Jose Alvarado. We'll see if he plays in this game. McBride, though, is out for the season with a hernia injury. So either way, a point is you're looking at Alvarado being the new quote-unquote backup point guard for this team. I don't know if he's going to suit up or not, but we'll see. Early on Thursday, so we'll see if he plays in this game. Tobias Harris, we know, has been banged up recently. We'll see. And once again, Cade was questionable, and he ended up playing in the end. So with Duran not being in the lineup, it's going to be the Isaiah Stewart show. And I think Cat and Robinson should dominate on the boards in this game. So I actually like the Knicks. Yes, I know the Knicks have not been great on the road this season, as they are currently 11-12. Detroit is 20-6 at home. They also played in Detroit earlier this season, about a month ago, and Detroit did win by 31. That was during the Knicks' struggles, and now they're heating up again as they have won 8 in a row. So I do think at the end of the day, Duran being injured is a big deal. Cat, I know, is questionable because he hurt his eye. He did play the entire game against Denver before he fouled out. I think he should be fine for this game. But even if he's not, how are they going to stop Robinson on the boards? I just think Robinson right now is a serious matchup problem for Detroit. And you're looking at Stewart, who I know is a good rim protector, but I do think the Knicks right now are playing better basketball than Detroit. I know overall this season, Detroit is 4.5 games better in the actual standings, but I do think the loss to the Wizards is a bit concerning. They had a nice win against Denver at home. But the point is, I do think that the Knicks, who've won 8 in a row, are a team that I really just don't want to fade right now. So I'll go with the Knicks. I think that Duran being injured is a big deal, and I think that the Knicks should dominate on the boards in this game. Give me the Knicks -1.5 in this road game. Before we get into the remainder of the actual card for Friday, a reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, Kalshi. So it's a real money prediction market available in every state. Use them for the big game. They have sides, totals, props, halftime performances, and more. And besides sports, you can also check out politics, entertainment, and even weather for prediction markets. So check that out. And a reminder, if you're new to Kalshi, great sign-up deal courtesy of us. Get $20 for free when you sign up with the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for a free $20 at sign-up at Kalshi. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new sponsor. The number one social sportsbook and casino out there, available in 35-plus states, including Texas and California. Get on the action with Rebet, and you also get a 100% purchase match up to $100 with promo code SGPN. That's Rebet, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Again Podcast. Finished going through the first couple games for the Friday card. Time to move on into the next game. Moving on to the next game, you have the Pacers taking on the Bucks. A reminder, Giannis stayed, but he's still injured, so he will not be playing in this game. As for Zubac, we'll see if he suits up. I'm skeptical. We have seen a lot of players so far around the trade deadline who got traded, showed up to their new team, and did not play. So I'm assuming Zubac will not play, but who knows? There's a chance he does. But we know Indiana's not very good anyway, and we know Milwaukee stinks. Now, Milwaukee has won a couple of games in a row, ended up beating the Pelicans in that crazy overtime game, and they also ended up beating the Bulls, who are awful, and they have nobody over basically 6'5". So Indiana, we know, has been bad. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to a Utah team that had basically 6 guys, and we saw Collier have a 20-plus assist game against them. But for this matchup, first things first, I know Milwaukee is only 9 games under. To be honest, I really don't care. I got to play the drop. So now that business is out of the way, I think that Milwaukee's probably the side here, but I really don't want to bet either team. These teams are awful, so anytime you're willing to actually jump in and grab one of these two teams, it's going to be a tricky proposition, but the Bucks are 2-0 against this team, and both games were in Indiana. We know Indiana's been a lot better at home than on the road, as Indiana's 3-20 straight up on the road. Milwaukee, despite being 9 under, is only 1 under at home. So they've actually been pretty decent in the form. So I think they'll look okay in this one. Indiana traded away Mathurin, traded away Isaiah Jackson. We know that they sat a bunch of guys against Utah. They sat Nembhard, they sat Siakam. We'll see what their story is for this game. But Milwaukee's had their number so far this season. I know that Milwaukee also made a trade or two. They got rid of Cole Anthony. They got rid of Amir Coffey. They made some moves, but either way, I think Milwaukee is just the better team right now, especially if Zubac does not play, because Indiana's, I'd say, center depth is kind of compromised. It's not even a Miles Turner revenge game because I'm not a big Miles Turner guy, but he has been better recently. I'll go Bucks -1.5, but you'd have to pay me to bet on this game. No interest at all, but I don't want to bet Indiana on the road. Give me the Bucks -1.5 in this one. Moving on to the next game, Pelicans taking on the Timberwolves, -11.5 for Minnesota. The over-under is 235.5. Now, unlike the Rockets, round of applause for Minnesota. You actually traded for a backup point guard. I'm proud of you. You finally addressed the position of need. Thank you, as they ended up trading for Dosunmu from Chicago. I like the move. Dillingham has not worked out. He has been a bust, and they decided, you know what? The Bulls could use another point guard. They already have 10 of them. So here you go. They ended up trading him away to Minnesota. And they ended up trading, Dillingham away to Chicago and got back to Sumu in the process. I know there was another guy involved. Terry was involved, etc. But the point is, Minnesota, I feel better about because now we don't have to bother with this awful Mike Conley backup point guard role and stuff like that. Dillingham, who barely plays, the Bones Highland minutes earlier this season. They actually have a backup point guard that I like. So Minnesota, I'm taking more seriously moving forward. I'm not sure how much I trust this team long-term in the postseason in a very stacked Western Conference, but they needed a backup point guard badly, and they actually got somebody. So good for them, and we'll see how Dosunmu looks on a winning basketball team. But I like the move. As for New Orleans, we know this team in general is not very good. Zion's still there. Trey Murphy's still there. Really, nothing happened for this team. Now, New Orleans, we saw they were competitive against Milwaukee last time out. Did end up losing in overtime. They've lost 3 in a row. They've lost 7 of 10. They're 13-40. I mean, this team's abysmal. So they have been competitive lately, though. Did lose to Milwaukee by 4 in overtime. Lost to Charlotte, a good Charlotte team, by 7. And they were leading at half. So they fell apart in the second half there. And they played Philly, lost by 10. Played the Thunder, lost by 9. They've been close in some of these games. The question is, do I trust Minnesota to actually cover a big spread? And the answer is no, I don't. Now, we'll see if Dosunmu plays in this game. Minnesota has been better recently, as they have won 5 of their last 6. And I want to point out that 4 of those wins have been by 12-plus points. But maybe it's just personal bias. I still don't like laying points. Point out New Orleans this season has been competitive against Minnesota. Both games were in New Orleans, and I get that the Pelicans are 5-21 on the road. But the first game went to overtime. Minnesota won by 7. Second game was in New Orleans as well. Minnesota won by 9. So the point is the Pelicans have been somewhat competitive with this team. 11.5 does feel a bit large to me. I understand it because New Orleans is not a good team. But recently they've been decent ATS. So I'll actually take New Orleans in this game. I like the over. I see points. I think that Minnesota, who's been involved in a bunch of track meets recently, Toronto, that landed 254. Memphis, that landed 265. Memphis again, 245. The Thunder landed 234. This number feels pretty low at 235.5. New Orleans, we know, cannot guard anybody. Queen is an abysmal defensive player. But New Orleans recently, 141 against, from Milwaukee. The low-scoring game against Charlotte, they gave up 124 to the 76ers. I can see at least one of these teams breaking 120. Probably more than that. Minnesota, maybe if they show up, scores 130. I like the over. I see a bunch of points. I'll go for the over in this one as my main thought. Moving on to the next game. We have the Grizzlies taking on the Blazers. Blazers are laying 7.5, and the over-under is at 234.5. The Blazers were half-linked to Giannis. Didn't work out. As for Memphis, they traded away Jaren Jackson Jr., traded away Bane in the offseason, and yet John Morant is still here. Will John Morant play again this season? I don't know, but they were not able to find anybody to trade for him that offered a decent package, so we'll see what happens. Now, I will point out Memphis did me a solid as I swept the last episode because I had the Grizzlies alt spread as my dog, and Ty Jerome has come back, and he's been really, really good. I think an NBA team should have tried to trade for him. Ty Jerome has, and I believe he had 28 points in the last. Now, Portland, we know, is a team that has been feisty, but they are still not great, so keep that in mind. I know Avdi has been kind of banged up lately, and he is questionable for this game. I do think the spread's pretty large, though. Yes, I know Memphis has basically no centers right now, which can be problematic, and Klingon should have a monster game on the boards. But we saw Memphis bury Portland in the first meeting of the season by 23. Maybe it's just the actual spread for me. I think 7.5 is just a massive number for a Portland team in freefall. Portland's lost 6 in a row. Going through the actual margins of loss, they have been really just not competitive in a lot of these games. They lost to Phoenix by 5. They blew a decent lead there in that game, so that was a choke job. Played Cleveland, got buried by 19. Played the Knicks, lost by 30. Lost to the Wizards on the road, so that's something. Played the Celtics, they covered, but did not actually score many points, scored 94, and they lost. And played Toronto and lost by 12. So Portland has lost a bunch of games in a row recently, and the Grizzlies might know what they've been competitive recently. Ty Jerome's been good. They have won 2 straight games. I think I'll go for Memphis here. I just don't want to lay this with Portland. I think Portland's a team, especially if Avdija is still injured. I don't trust their offense in general, and I do think that even though both Klingon and Robert Williams could have monster games on the glass, I still don't like the way this team is performing. So based on the current form, or in this case, the lack thereof, I'll go for the Grizzlies. I think that the Grizzlies can be feisty, and they might win this game. When you have 2 teams that are not very good, and one of them is laying north of 3 possessions, or laying 3 possessions, just think that it's a little bit much. I'll go for the rebounding will be a concern, especially if Aldama once again is going to be either limited or out. But I'll pick him to find a way. Class 4.0 at this point in this game. Moving on to the last game, Clippers taking on the Kings. So the Clippers trade away Zubac, and they still have Kawhi on their team. Trade away Harden as well. So Kawhi is going to play a little even tank because the Thunder own their first-round draft due, but either way, they got buried by the Cavs in their last game. As for the Kings, they've made some moves, but I don't think anybody likes what they've done. They didn't trade away anybody at the deadline day that was worth a damn. Sabonis still there. LaVine is still there. DeRozan's still there. Westbrook's still there. They got rid of Schroeder, and that's basically it. And Keon Ellis. So we'll see what happens, but the Clippers, we'll see if mentally they punt on the season, because right now you have a couple of young guys who are trying to, get some better playing time, and you have starting center Brook Lopez in 2026. So not exactly the roster or the situation you wanted if you're the Clippers, but you kind of needed to get some draft picks back, so I understood the moves in both cases. Garland's still injured. What else is new? So we'll see how they look. Now, for this game, the line is short. I get why the Clippers are favored at 3.5, and I get why people do not want to take the Kings in this game. Having said that, I actually might take the Kings. I really have to question the motivation for the Clippers. Yes, I know that the Kings once again stink. They're 12-40. I also did not mention Monk is still there, and he's been rumored to be traded for months. But the Clippers, at the end of the day, are a team that I'm just not interested in. You're looking at Mathurin, who's probably not going to play. Isaiah Jackson probably not going to play. Garland's out. Sabonis, we'll see if he ends up playing, but I do think rebounding-wise, the Kings have an advantage, whether it involves Sabonis, whether it involves the other centers they have on the roster. I've been quite a fan of their backup. I mean, I think Reynolds fine, but I'm also a fan of, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Cardwell. I think Cardwell's pretty solid. Nice energy. I think that he can be a solid rim protector as well. I'm going to go Sacramento in this game. I think both teams are not very good. But if you compare the actual rosters on paper right now that Zubac's gone, yes, I understand that Kawhi is still playing and Kawhi could just have a monster 35-point game in a moment's notice. But if you look at this Clippers roster without Harden and without Zubac, is their roster that much better than Sacramento's? I don't think so. So I'm going to go Sacramento at home. Even though this team is currently 12 and I think 40 this season, light the damn beam. Give me the Sacramento Kings to get the job done here. The Clippers, couple of veterans on the team. Now it's just Kawhi. Who knows if we'll start load managing? I don't know, but this team was supposed to be a potential 50-win team. We're going nowhere. They blew up the roster. I question if mentally this team is just fried and will no-show this game. Give me Sacramento, money line in this one at home. I also don't mind the over. I don't trust the Kings to play defense against anybody, and we'll see how the Clippers look defensively. Spoiler against the Cavs, not very good, as they give up 120-plus points. Give me the over, and give me the Kings in this one. Anyways, going to wrap it up for all the games on the Friday card. Time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. Before we get into the Lock and Dog, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. So they'll be covered for the big game. Choose a player, reveal whether you've won a gimme pick, followed by a boost builder tied to the big game. Underdog is celebrating by hooking players up with bigger boosts. Just submit a boosted entry to unlock an even bigger boost on the next one, all the way up to 60%. And a reminder, Underdog is a brand new offer For new customers, play just $5. $75 bonus fund. You sign up with the promo code SGPN or the promo code MBSGPN. So once again, Underdog Fantasy, play just $5, $75 bonus fund. You sign up with the promo code MBASGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great this NFL season, especially on props. Check them out for the Super Bowl. They have sides, totals, they have props, a lot of options there, not just for football, but also for golf, for the NBA, for college basketball. Check them out for model building as well. Build your own. You could use the leaderboard system, copy one from there, or Rhythm's house model, just give you plays directly. And a reminder, if you want a nice discount, if you want to go premium with Rhythm, use the code SGPN25 when you download the app, and you'll get a quarter off for first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for a quarter off for first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Podcast. Finished going through all the games on Friday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. For the lock on the show, what do I want to go with? I know what my dog's going to be. For my lock, you know what? I think I am going to let me actually just see if I'm... Do I want to go with the Knicks? I know Cat might not play. The team has not been very good on the road. But with Duran being injured, that is a big deal. And Cade playing on a back-to-back, just coming back from injury, is not ideal either. Boston defensively has been so good. They've allowed less than 101 points in 4 straight, so I can't really commit to the over in that game as my lock. Instead, I'm just going to go for the Knicks. I think they'll win the game. Give me Knicks money line in this one at around a minus 110. Yes, I know it is a good bounce back spot for Detroit if you're getting buried by the Wizards at home on Thursday. But Duran got injured. We'll see if Cat plays. He played the entire game against Denver anyway, so I think he might end up suiting up. But Mitchell Robinson should be a problem. Brunson should be an issue. I think the Knicks just have too much depth right now, and we'll see how the Pistons look with Herter, etc. But I do think with Cade playing a back-to-back right off injury and with Duran being injured, not exactly a fan of the spot. I'll go with the Knicks money line at minus 110 as my lock for the show. For my dog, I said it before, I'm going to go back to the really ugly play, but I do like the line. Give me Sacramento money line at plus 142. The Clippers, after trading away Harden and Zubac, I just don't like how this team looks at all. They have Brook Lopez as starting center. We have Kawhi, who's now going to be the only star player on the team. They might be using a bunch of young guys. We'll see how that goes. But Sacramento, they should have traded away pieces. They didn't. But on paper, Sacramento's arguably more talented than this Clippers team. So I'll take him at home in this one. Give me the Kings money line at plus 142 as my dog for the show. Moving on to the underdog entry, we'll see what actual games are even listed on the card. So give me a second. Let me just see what is available for underdog here. Starting off with, what do we want to go with here? Sorry, just looking around really quickly. What do we want to go with here? Sorry, let me just quickly refresh for a second. Sorry, the list that I had included the games for Thursday. So let me just quickly remove those. Yeah, I'm seeing like Kobe Sanders options and Kawhi options. I still like Kawhi. I know that, once again, he's going to end up probably sitting out for a couple of weeks because why bother? But Sacramento's terrible defensively. I think that it's a good matchup for Kawhi, who historically has done pretty well against the Kings. For the record, he had 33 points against them last time. I think for the sake of this game, though, his field goal attempts are at 20.5, though. I thought that was a decent option, but that is a pretty high number. I know that his PA... You know what? Zubac is out. We know Lopez never rebounds the ball. Good enough for me. Give me Kawhi rebounds in this game. I'll go for the higher 6.5. He's had at least 7 in 3 of the last 5. I think it's a pretty good spot for him to rebound the ball with no Zubac. So I think that he's in a good spot to get some boards. He might play a bunch of minutes. Who knows? Game should be competitive on paper. I am going to point out that without Zubac in the lineup, he has had at least 7 rebounds in 5 of his 7 games of the season when Zubac doesn't play. Give me the higher on Kawhi rebounds at 6.5 for starters. Looking at some other options for this one. What do I want to go with here? Sorry, I'm just looking around to see if there's anything that catches my eye. I think Ant's going to destroy this Pelicans team. So I'll go for Ant in this one. Let me see where Ant's at in terms of points. 29.5. If that is listed on Underdog. Is that listed on Underdog? I see 30.5 on Underdog. Let me see his last couple of games. 30, 39, 33 against New Orleans recently. 11, 44. I mean, the 11's not exactly ideal. What else can I go for here? And 3 attempts? How have the 3 attempts been looking? Basically the same as the points. Sorry, I'm just kind of going through this now. First quarter points, 8.5. I think that's probably the angle I'll go with because there is a chance there's a blowout, and I'm just dead wrong. But he's been good in the first quarter of games recently. It's at 9.5 on Underdog, though, which is kind of annoying. But the last couple of games for Ant, 9 points against Toronto, 12, 12, and 12, and he plays every minute in the first quarter. So I'll go for that. Give me Ant to start off hot in this game. Give me Ant higher, 9.5 first quarter points. And last but not least, for the Underdog entry, just quickly seeing if there's anything I'm interested in. I'll go Bobby Portis in this game. Give me the higher 19.5 PR. He's been great recently. He's had at least 20 PR in 6 straight. We know that, once again, Turner barely rebounds and Giannis is still out. I like that angle for Bobby Portis. So once again, the 3-pick entry for Underdog, we're going to go with Kawhi, higher 6.5 rebounds. Anthony Edwards, higher 9.5 first quarter points, and Bobby Portis, higher 19.5 PR. Anyways, going to wrap it up for the show, and we'll be back once again next week. Until next time, good luck to all of you, and all